So hello, today I wanted to talk about RIR versus percentages when you're writing up a program. Oftentimes I see people leave out any intensity when they're writing a program, just like 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 15, 8, 6, 4, and then maybe 12 afterwards is the drop set. So how do we use RIR and percentages, and what would be the pros and cons of each one? So just for reference, RIR stands for reps in reserve. And this would be, if I was to write a program, I would say a set of 10 with an RIR of 2. That means pick a weight you could do for 12 reps. And then when you have 2 reps left in the tank, no need to go any heavier. And it's a way to control the progress and progressively overload with the person we're in the workout. And it can be a little more confusing, the program, but I like it overall a lot more than percentages. Well, this is personally now that I've learned everything I have. So how we get the percentages first, when you start studying any sort of certification, they always have 8 to 80%. And what that means is 8 reps equals 80% of your max. That's how you can calculate. So that if you have 6 reps, 85, 4 reps, 90, 2 reps is 95. And that's why people always like to use the 5 rep max. And it's 87.5% of your 1 rep max is how much you can do for 5 reps. It's pretty much just an easy calculation. It's not always right, but it's as close as you can get when you just want to calculate a 5 rep max or any one. If you want the most, I want to say like a standardized way of testing a map rep, testing for a max rep without actually maxing out. So how I learned a long time ago from one of my coaches was he would do 10 reps at either 50 or 60%, and he had 55% as well. And why he kept these ranges was because that he based everything off of that. So he would do very linear periodization, meaning it'd be like 1 rep, everything, one week, everything sets of 10, 1 week, everything sets of 8, 6, 4, 2. He was very linear in how he programmed. But he would use 50% to start like an easy program, and he'd use 60% to start a hard program. Now, it's very basic to do this kind of style, but it does have its benefits because it's very easy to program. So if I know someone's max bench press is 100 kilos and I tell them 10 reps at 50%, they know 100 kilos. It's pretty simple. 60%, 120 kilos. It's very easy to figure out how much weight, what we're doing, and we all know what's going on in this scenario. The only problem is when you do this, I found out when I was younger and working with them, is when you're used to 60%, you're finishing at sets of 2 at 100%, and he would just use 95. But you're not gonna, in 5 weeks, we're not gonna jump up to where we're gonna hit our max for 2 reps. So it was always, we would just train super heavy, and I just felt myself always getting slower. I wasn't sprinting faster, my lifts was getting slower, and I was supposed to be an athlete, so I wasn't getting the benefits looking back to what I should have been doing. But I was young, and I was able to and you're taking advantage of youth, so it can work. For beginners, and when you're programming for someone, it makes sense to use something like this because on paper it works. It's very easy to follow. There's not much variables to it, and it's pretty easy to write an Excel sheet and throw this together. You just throw their 1 rep max up here and everything calculates. It's super easy. So I understand why people still like to use the percentages. The only problem is, let's say I'm doing 6 reps at 80%, my heavy day. Let's say I'm killing it, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna hit that reps. I'm gonna hit 6 reps at 80%, maybe 2 sets, maybe all 3. But give me a bad day where I had a stressful day at work or school, I didn't eat properly the night before, maybe I hung out with my buddies, I'm not hitting this 80% for 6 reps. It's just not gonna happen. So that's where the flaws in this can come really quickly. But for majority of people, when you're first starting, this is kind of a system, it's very easy to program. We move into the RIRs, reps in reserve. This can get a little more complicated, but just to give a really basic idea of how you can utilize it into a program, is let's say you have a workout, right? And you want to use the main lift, let's just use bench press, and we want to do 3 sets of 10. Okay, now you can do 3 sets of 10 for 4 weeks, that's okay, but you have to change the volume, you have to add a little bit more weight, not a lot of weight, just a little bit. So we have week 1, RIR 3, we have 3 reps left. Week 2, RIR 2, week 3, RIR 1, and then finally week 3, RIR 0. Why does this work? Let's say the first week I did 100 kilos with 3 RIR. Okay, then week 2 I'll use 100 and let's say 2.5, 102.5, and then 105, and then finally maybe 110. So the whole time I'm doing 3 sets of 10, but I'm going up gradually, adding progressive overload. And then what do? I go down to week 5 and I go down to RIR 3, I change the reps, let's say to 8 or even 6. I completely change the load and I start again. And when I use my 3 is almost like a deload, learning the movement. So by the time I get to week 4, I'm efficient at this movement. That's just an easy way of how you can utilize the RIR system in programming. Long term, I like it a lot more because we can always have variables. It's not putting a set weight. With the percentages, we're putting a set weight. So it's always saying how you should feel. You always should feel that you can get 50% for 10 reps. And it's not real world. Here we have some variety. It's just 2 reps in reserve. So, but the same with the good of how we have more options, it also has the bad. Most people are not going to be able to calculate this. It's really difficult for people to calculate. If I told you 3 reps in reserve, some people might put 6, 7 reps in reserve. Or maybe they'll push too much weight, and by the 3rd set, it's just way too much. And that's where it can get kind of tricky, is it takes time to figure out what your RIR of whatever the number is, and how do you keep pushing yourself without going over or without going super under. Because most people will calculate their weight to reps way off. You'll see like they can still do like 7, 10 more reps sometimes. And you're like what are you doing? Like do more weights. And it's just that mentality of learning how to use this kind of a system. So if you implement it for a client or even for yourself, you have to really practice. You have to spend time learning how to actually lift while feeling this way. Because if you get up and your chest is killing you, like you barely can move, and you're supposed to do RIR of 3, you might have just done a 0 or a 1. Or you get up and you just got done doing bench and it's like you didn't even bench press. You might have done like 6 or 7. You're not getting any hypertrophy, any strength benefits, nothing out of your whole workout. And then it's kind of a waste of time. So that's why learning this kind of a system, the RIR, it just takes time to get there. It's easier starting with the percentages, especially when programming for yourself or someone else, because it just is, it's on paper. There's no variable. It's just 50% of whatever your max is. Calculate your max with 80%, use 5 rep max, poof, I have all my numbers, the entire workout done for all my main lifts. Getting to RIR, that's where it gets a little tricky. But at the same time, using a system like this, it gives more variety, more periodization. I mean, you can do the kind of RIR given, let's say, set of 10 at 50%, set of 10, 51%, set of 10, 52%, or even 52, 54, 55. You can do that. But like I said, it's all on paper, and the weight and sets are standard, versus RIR gives a little more variety. But using the percentages at the same time has their advantages. So let's say you're doing a peaking cycle where we're going to target more of the CNS work versus the strength versus hypertrophy in bodybuilding. CNS, central nervous system. I'm trying to get strong here. That's the goal, strong, strength. I have 5-6 week programs based off this, percentage based. And by the time we get done, you will hit your 100% for a set of 3 or 4. It will happen. It's just then we're talking about why we pick the numbers. Everything's put there to be a formula to gradually take you overload and then set you to a new standard of what you can lift. These are peaking cycles are short, 3, 5, maybe 6 weeks long. A DUP style would be maybe 12 weeks at the longest. But their percentages designed for a reason. That's why they're there. But you have to always know what's going on. You have to make sure you're on top of your stuff. It's not random. So using percentages can definitely have its advantages if you want to program and stay on top of every little detail of what's going on. Because if I want you to stay at 72.5% weight, I'm going to manage how the reps go the week before and then see how it goes into this week. See how your energy is, how you're feeling, and go from all over those variables. So you can use the percentage. It's not saying you can't. There's just many tools in the toolbox. So that's just the quick basics of our RIR and the percentages and kind of the pros and cons, how I feel about them. Beginners, it's just easy to use the percentages. It's just on paper. There's nothing wrong about it. It just works. RIR system, a little more advanced because it takes time to learn how to utilize them. And then let's say you want to do a peaking cycle. That's where you can go back to the percentages and really dial in exactly what you want and get everything out of each movement with the reps you want and the weight you need to use based off your 1 rep max. So yes, that is it. Thank you for watching my RIR versus percentages and how I utilize them. Kind of a little bit of pros and cons of each.